Good news tonight. There are no new evacuation areas or expansions of evacuation areas today.
Yeah, let's take a look. This is a map showing where the fires are right now in St. Louis and Lake counties and where people are being asked to leave. Now, those flame icons you see there are the actual fires. What you see in red are the go areas where people need to be evacuated right now, and the BWCA, which are both areas that have been closed and evacuated.
And meanwhile, in Cook County, no change today in ready and set areas. The end of the Gunflint Trail still in set orange, meaning people should be prepared to leave at a moment's notice. You can see other parts of the county are in ready mode, where people should at least consider the fact that there may eventually be a need to leave.
Well, in an update a few hours ago, St. Louis County Sheriff Gordon Ramsey says there is a lot of cabins in remote areas that you can only get to by boat. So his team is keeping that in mind for when an evacuation zone is expanded.
We do have to provide evacuation information to those of you that may not have road access, and it is by water. We are prepared to, with our rescue squad and deputies, to make those notifications if those zones get extended.
Ramsey says the wind yesterday pushed the fires south. However, today, that's no longer the case.